I don't know another way to explain it than Sandlot.
It's a great.
It is, and there was like 10 or 12 boys that all ran together, all played practical jokes on each other. It was a
And
ball.
CPR to lifeguard.
Well, we tried to. But she didn't like it.
Shouldn't fall for the bit.
Oh my God. There's somebody doesn't get that joke. Every single individual has a story to tell, and they're great stories that need to be heard.
I want every listener to know they have the ability to change the world.
Welcome to the 1720 podcast.
What's up, Mountain Movers? Welcome back to the 1720 podcast. Today is tax day. So if that's an alert for you, get off this podcast and file your taxes.
Somebody was like, oh God. Right?
Probably Matt.
No. Matt Fisher quota met. But also on the 15th, what that means is that last week was the solar eclipse, and it was great and or awful. I don't know. It hasn't happened yet when we're recording, but it was last week.
Yeah, fill in the blank. We decided to take the week off because coincidental to tax day, we have a financial assassin joining us on the podcast today, David Garrett. Got to know him from the TEXO board and executive committee. It's just another one of those association involvement relationships where you start digging in, diving in, meeting new people, and you meet incredible people. And now we got another one sitting here with Mr. David Garrett. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor to be on here.
Well, I don't know about that. I think we've already ruined all of our credibility, so hopefully you can restore that for us today.
Well, it's an honor for me. I hope I don't make it look too bad.
No. So before we're just always in the ditch, and before we started recording, we were talking about people skipping work, throwing parties, getting stuck in traffic, school being shut down for the eclipse last week, and you were telling a story that's amazing. I'll let you. You're skipping.
I'm skipping, but I'm skipping for something totally different. I'm taking my son to the CMT Music Awards for his 13th birthday, and again, I'm not sure where you're supposed to go out of town for 13th birthday, but we are, and so we're really looking forward to spending a lot of time with just one-on-one time with dad and son, and it's I'm really looking forward to it.
It's so just the two of you going.
It's me and him and his cousin Cole and my cousin-in-law, I guess. Clint. So
awesome.
Two sons and two dads. He turns 13 2 weeks after Trace, so it's awesome.
That's gonna be great.
This has potential of hunting trips. And
it does.
Yes,
it does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's some runway there in a good way.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Dudes being dudes.
Yes.
Yeah. I won't bore you. We did that with our boys when they turned 13. I won't tell my stories. I probably already told them on here, but y'all gonna have a great time, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
I'm going to pull us back out of the ditch here and see if we can get started. But typically we'll just let you intro yourself. Kev did a great job, but for listeners out there who don't know who you are, who's David?
So I'm Dave Garrett. I live up in Melissa, Texas. I was born and raised in a little small town in Dudley, Georgia, and it has about 400 people in it. That probably includes the dogs and cats. It's crazy how small of a town it is, but it's a great little town.
We had a lot of folks from small towns on. Well, a few folks. That's the smallest ever.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Small town is a very relative statement,
right?
400. I think you just set the record.
That's a micro town.
Yeah.
Did you have a post office?
Yeah. Post office and a bank. I actually still have my bank account at the Bank of Dudley. I think I opened it when I was 13.
That's awesome.
The postman's also the sheriff. He's also the bartender.
It's not. He
was the deacon.
Mayberry. He's a deacon?
Yeah, he was a deacon. I knew him. Yeah,
There's dual rolling.
From me, yeah.
Oh, man. This is
a lot of public positions to fill when you only got 400 people.
Yeah.
Where in Georgia is this?
It's probably an hour and a half from Savannah it's like 2.5 hours southeast of Atlanta.
Okay.
And an hour and a half kind of west of Savannah.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a small town.
Little town. Yeah. I mean, the closest town to get groceries at was, like 10, 12 miles away. So, it was good. It was great. It was, it reminds you, if the movie Sandlot, it was a lot like that. We had 8 or 10 guys that we all played baseball, but it was a little farming community, and we all worked on different farms that was around, just doing odd jobs. I mean, because you couldn't just sit around, and and we all met at the baseball field and played baseball, and until wee hours of the night, and it was awesome. It was cool.
You still know those guys? You still hang out with them? You still talk to them?
I do. Actually, one of my close friends is actually the mayor there. And,
he is.
And
somebody had to be the mayor.
And and yeah, they it's funny. They were actually about to kind of mothball the fields, and this guy Jason Locke, he had an idea of starting like the Little League program in the little community. And so now, I mean, I think there's like 1,000 kids that play through this baseball program.
Wow.
Now, through this little community. It's still only probably 500 people there now, but
that's like College Station on a game day. The population of the town triples.
It does.
First Little League Saturday.
It does.
Hot
it
dang.
Does. It's cool. It's cool. My wife and I still support it and still keep in touch with all those guys, and it's really cool. It's really cool. So
we got tons of. I mean, we said it earlier, folks growing up in small towns, but you got to have different ones. Because I mean, I'll tell a story just to get into your story, but you know, I can remember one time I ran a stop sign in town, headed home, and by the time I got home, Mom knew, that sort of thing. But that was in a town of more than 400 people. It's got to be even tighter than that there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You knew everybody in town. Everybody in town, and there was 2 churches in town. You went to one or the other. You know, so it was cool.
Like a controversy, like if those people go to Central Baptist Church, like that sort of thing.
No. I mean, we kind of worked together as just a Baptist church, a little Baptist church, and a Methodist church, and pretty much it.
Happy day.
Yeah, little bitty town, little farming town. So everybody was either worked for, you know, like the government or something, like drove into different spots, or was farmers, and I mean it was, yeah.
Mom, dad, brothers, sisters.
Yep. I'm the youngest of 3. I have 2 older sisters. My mom and dad are still alive. They still live there. Still live in the same house they built in 1970, I think, and something like that. It's crazy. My mom was a high school teacher, and my dad was a lineman for the county kind of guy.
Yeah,
he worked at the co-op, and
somebody just said, "What's a co-op?" Like, is there listening? Like, what's a co-op? I know what a co-op is because Eric's dad worked for the co-op. That's my story. But what's co-op?
Well, it's the rural power company.
Yeah,
you know, it's regulated by the government that everybody in the counties could get power, because when it first started, the power companies would just go to certain communities, and so the co-ops would go to in between the communities.
Yeah,
so
yeah, basically work for like. It'd be Encore in Dallas or something like this, right? But in little smaller areas, I don't know why it's called the co-op, but that's what it's called.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think it's because it was a share power kind of thing.
Oh, cooperative
with
right,
the power, with the government type thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he started out there when he was 18. He retired after like 43 years of service or something.
So you say he was a lineman?
He was a lineman, power line lineman.
So do you know much about linemen?
Yeah.
The thing that always blew my mind is they would just climb those poles, like just shimmy them. I know they had like special boots for it. And stuff.
They got that rod, or strap,
straps, but they had little spikes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? I figured there's like a long ladder or something. No, just go straight up.
Because dummies like us would go up at off hours.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, no, there's special spikes and all that, and yeah, it's crazy. I actually did line work too when I was in college. So it's, yeah.
So is Melissa about as congested as you can tolerate going from Dudley? I know we're going to get into you moved here story, but you had to be away from DFW just a little bit.
Oh, listen, it's probably more congested for me than I like, man. Yeah.
A conversation we were having about traffic before we started is like, it rings even more true. We were talking about how crazy you can't get anywhere in Dallas. It takes an hour these days.
Oh, no.
You could drive into town, get groceries, and come home in 30 minutes from Dudley.
Yes.
Yeah. See,
yes.
You can't make it to Tom Thumb in 30 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's 15 miles, it's going to take you 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's no question about that. But yeah, here it's 15 miles. It's going to take you 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, so Melissa's, and I live on 9 acres. So I bought 9 acres so I didn't have to have neighbors that's right next to me.
Right. Stay away.
Yeah.
So almost everybody in Dudley, they had some farmland as well or some property?
No, Dudley's like a little grid community.
Okay.
Everybody lived on, like 3/4 of an acre lots or something. And then
kind of like a Midlothian vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of little lots and everything, and little community pool. Nobody had pools at their house. It was little community pool, and it had a feed mill and a bank, and that's about it.
Yeah, this is Sandlot.
It legitimately,
community pool, isn't that
it's a big piece of that movie.
Yeah.
You can't I don't know another way to explain it than Sandlot.
It's great.
It is, and there was like 10 or 12 boys that all ran together, all played practical jokes on each other. It was a
and
ball.
CPR to lifeguard.
Well, we tried to. But she didn't like it.
She didn't fall for the bit.
Oh my God. There's somebody doesn't get that joke. Just go Google Sandlot CPR. There's a whole clip of it. I can't remember what's the character's name. I can't remember her name. Oh man.
Me neither.
It's so fun. We tried to. It's so funny. Oh man. I can't get us out of that ditch. That's so good. All right, you grew up in Dudley. How do you get out of there? When you leave? I'm not trying to pull us out.
Yeah, but there's got to be some construction that comes at some point.
Yeah.
So I grew up. Like I said, we were partners in a farm, and I did all sorts of stuff like that. And growing up, and then my dad was a lineman, so he always would talk about how our engineers, they knew everything. You wanted to be an engineer. You don't want to be the guy that's digging the poles. You want to be the engineer. So I was dead set on wanting to be an engineer. And so I got in electrical engineering school, and after the 4th or 5th calculus, I realized I'm not smart enough to be an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm a lot better at digging holes. So so it was I started out there, and I was working my way through school, doing night school. Mostly I was doing power line work, and then and I quit college after the 4th or 5th calculus. I quit college, and then I started doing something that is cruising timber. I did that for about 6 months, and that's where you go and you walk through the woods, and you really calculate how much timber's in a certain area. You walk in and you calculate the cord value of timber, and you come up with an estimate for the landowner, and they come in and clear cut the timber, to make lumber, products. And so it was basically a timber estimator, but you have to go in the woods and all that. And I think I had 2 different snakes hit my chaps. And the second snake, I decided I was going to go back to college. And I was like, I don't do snakes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not familiar with a snake game in southeastern Georgia. What snakes are out there?
We had diamondback.
Okay.
Diamondback rattlesnakes, timber rattlers, cottonmouth.
Those will do the trick.
Copperhead hit my chaps, and I screamed like a schoolgirl. I mean, it was my buddy that was out there with me. He was like, "Man, are you dead? I mean, what's going on?" So yeah.
Did you scream like me earlier when Kevin screamed at me?
Yeah. Oh, it was probably louder than that. It was bad.
I don't know much about snakes, so they're all copperheads to me.
Well,
like if I see one, copperhead.
Yeah,
deadly.
Yes.
I don't know anything about them. I just know I don't like them.
That's right.
So, yeah, right.
So, but yeah, so I did that, and then then I went back to school, and I went to a different college, and still doing line work and doing night classes. And then that's where I met my wife, was in college. And then graduated, and then I continued doing line work, but I was working with a company. They told me they were going to put me into like a project management role. And so I never got into that project manager role. We kept doing shutdowns, and we would do outages, and hurricanes would come blowing through, and we would be gone for 8 weeks at a time or whatever. And so if you take off for a certain amount of time, if you worked a certain amount of time, you had to take a certain amount of days off. So if you worked 7 days a week for 8 weeks, you had to take 7 or 8 days off. And so in one of those 7 or 8 days, I was working at the church on the youth building. and they we had a men's work day at the church, and so my dad, I had days off, but he was like, "You're not going to sit around. You're going to get some work done." I was about to get married anyway, so I just bought a house, and so he was like, "There's a men's work day up at the church. Let's orchestrate everybody coming in, And so I had 40 guys we had lined up to do all this stuff, and so one of the guys that was up there was president of SteelFab at the time, and so he asked somebody, "Hey, who's that kid running everything?"
There we go.
And so that's how I ended up at SteelFab.
This is a church in Dudley? Like
It's Dudley Baptist Church, yes.
Tiny little okay, that's a funny confluence there. Yeah. Unless he's from Dudley.
No, well, I worked at SteelFab has a location in Dublin, which is the town that has probably 40,000 people in it.
In a Safeway or whatever.
Yeah. And so that's where SteelFab had an operation. They bought a plant there like a year before.
Okay.
Like a year before this.
Okay.
And so and he just happened to go to I didn't know he went to church with us, but he happened to go to church because I was traveling so much. I didn't go. I mean, I went to church some, but I was traveling so much doing work. So
how old are you at this point?
I was 23.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he sees you over there doing the hustle, and he's like, "Who's that kid with the hustle?"
Yeah, because everybody would show up. You know how men's work day goes at church. Everybody kind of shows up, and I divided everybody up in like 4 different crews. It was like this crew does this crew does this, and I had all the different stuff for different crews, and just ready to go. And I was kind of directing traffic on everything, and so
you're at the mercy of the talent level of the volunteers that volunteer.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
right.
like Tim, Bob, and Jim. Why don't you go play hacky sack outside?
Yeah.
Just stay out of our way.
You know how to hold a shovel?
Yeah.
Why don't you just stand there and hold it?
Yeah.
Just don't get hurt, please. Don't get hurt.
Well, I will say the level of volunteers in the little town that
they're scrappy.
They're scrappy. So most people know how to paint, and most people know how to do something. Framing a wall and removing shingles or something that they may not know how to do, but we can work with that.
That's interesting observation, right? Because kind of moment of clairvoyance for me, because they do these here local, right, in Dallas, and people show up and you're like, "Can you let me show you?" I've never painted anything before. You're like, it's not hard. You're just gonna dip it and then paint it. You can't figure it out. They just look like they're covered in paint in 5 minutes. Like, what's going on? If you guys, small town, they've been fixing tractors, and Dad said you got to go. Like you got to get the ochre in, so figure it out. Like they know how to just do stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I never put those two ideas together. That's genius. Yeah. Anywho, dead screeching halt with my stupid comments. But
no. I think it's true. I mean, it's. You just have to. You don't have the. There's not a handyman that's around that you can call. There's not a
right.
That just doesn't happen. So,
and it probably what I like about this, we're about to enter. You find your calling, right?
Yep.
But through experience, you both open and shut doors. Like you can't do that in theory. You can't get bit by a snake on your chaps. Like you got to be walking through it, and then that happened. Be like, I'm shutting this door. Like I'm going to go chase something else.
Yeah.
There's a few of those shut doors to lead you to this moment of meeting the founder of SteelFab, did you say?
No, he was the president of the Dublin division.
Gotcha.
Yep. No, I didn't meet the founder of SteelFab for another couple of years. And so, or the founder's grandson, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the president of that organization. SteelFab is the way they kind of do things is they would take a guy and put it in a new market and put him there to run it. And then the corporate headquarters in Charlotte.
Okay.
And so this guy was put there to run that market.
Gotcha. So let's stay on this guy. So what did that first? Do you remember that first conversation with him? Like once they made the intro, like did he speak life into you? Did he point out character traits you didn't even know you had? Like what did that look like?
No, actually, that guy he gave me a chance. He was kind of drowning. He had sold so much work he didn't understand. He needed a project manager.
Gotcha.
He just needed somebody. And I remember going in for an interview and because he had asked for a resume, my dad gave him a resume at church the next Sunday. And so I came in for the interview and he was like, well, how quick can you start? And I was like, well, I mean, I can give a 2-week notice. I can start in 2 weeks, and so I started, and, typically you learn how to read drawings. I remember I opened up a set of drawings and I'm like, all right, why do y'all call these wide flange? They're all I-beams. Why are they, so that,
Yeah.
why are they wide flange? So I knew nothing. I knew how to read drawings, but I just didn't know all the stuff in it now. And so, but yeah, and then like literally within a week and a half, I mean, he was like, here's 4 jobs that are coming off the ground. I know you don't even know what approval drawings are, but here's 4 jobs and they have crews on them. I just need you to answer the phone and answer questions. So, that's, I guess, kind of how I started. I mean, I was managing work within 2 weeks.
Yeah. That story checks out.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And more than just the construction industry, I just feel like so many industries, well, figure it out, buddy.
Yeah.
I needed a warm
or swim.
Yeah, I needed a body for that seat, and you're in it. Go.
Yeah.
So if your phone answer guy, how many of those were you like, I'll get right back to you? I don't know the answer to that question. Almost all of them.
A lot. It was, and I mean, again, I had to learn a lot. And then I remember we were building this it was multi-purpose building, but it had bowstring trusses in it. And the detailer had forgotten it was in 3 parts, and he had forgotten to show the cutoff piece on these trusses. We had erectors, that was there trying to put these trusses together in the field. And my boss was in the Bahamas. He had gone to take a 2-week vacation.
Perfect timing.
It was perfect timing. And we were erecting these trusses. They were 170 foot long. And me and my dad had to, the only way I knew how to do it was get it was on like 1,000-foot radius. And is to measure it out and do the math problem and try to figure it out. And I was laying laying it out in the field with a Sharpie marker. And I'm literally, it wasn't 1,000 foot. I'd do the math and get closer, but it was, I was like 3 months into this, and I'm literally telling this guy where to cut this piece. And I'm not sure if this is real good or not, but my boss is in the Bahamas.
Somebody's got to make a decision.
Somebody's got to make a decision. Let's go.
Yeah.
I got a crane sitting here with a crew. We got to make a decision. And so it was a baptism by fire.
Yeah.
It was good.
And
it worked out.
There you go.
Yeah, man. It actually worked, and so we decided to cut every truss the same way and just keep going.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, if a person didn't know what a bowstring truss is, what is it? Just hypothetically speaking.
Well, it's a radius top cord truss.
Oh, I got you.
So it's a truss with the top cord that's rolled and the bottom cord's flat.
Got it.
And so yeah.
But it was explain further.
Yeah. No, I got it now.
You got
actually.
it?
Yeah. The top cord's on a radius.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I remember
figure it out, buddy.
Early in my career, like same exact timing. Like, hey, go measure these openings, then we're gonna order off your measurements. And they gave me one of those like stick tapes that has a measurement bubble in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only 20 years ago. Like there was still better technology. And I showed up to this entrance and I was taking a stick out and measuring the width of the vestibule, and I didn't have a laser. I didn't have a tape measure. And the GC project manager turned the corner and he saw me with the stick and he's just like, oh
yeah.
Like just severe disappointment.
Oh yeah.
But it got installed right.
Yeah. I got a lot of funny looks on that deal. I was, yeah, it was awesome.
Until it fit.
Yeah, it fit, and we got to going, and yeah, it was cool. I learned a lot of math on how much a crane cost and the hourly rate of cranes really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Big time,
and yeah, it was again, it was baptism by fire. I learned a lot, and then honestly, fast forward, 2 years later, the guy that had hired me, was actually stealing from the company. And then my boss, that's when I met the main owners of the company. I got introduced to the main owners of the company then. And, so that was a baptism by fire too. So it was a good experience though. It was a good experience.
Was that baptism your promotion because you were now stepping into the role,
You had
even if it was temporarily?
Yeah, I didn't like step into a president role. I'd take a more, leadership role at the time. But you just had to take over all the jobs, and you had to, just kind of figuring out where all the problems were, because it was, it was basically hiding money through different working process, things. And if you weren't right in the middle of the business, it would, be hard to find. And so, it was, I just learned a lot about accounting and learned a lot about just business and what to look for, and just, be real anal about where you put cost codes. I mean, cost is cost. I mean, if it doesn't, don't try to hide it in something else. I mean, if it costs you this much, it costs you this much. That's the only way to figure it out. So it was a good learning experience for that. And then
it's kind of schooling will teach you all the things schooling will teach you, but it's sort of weird and kind of unfortunate that the best way to learn whatever the thing is fixing something that's screwed up. Like, okay, I've had to dig in all those corners to figure it all out, and now I know where all the corners are and how to not do that thing.
Yeah, well, I think you, certainly for me, I can say I've learned a lot more from my bad jobs than I have my good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the bad ones, but and I think the bad ones, I tell all my guys this, it's just, the good ones now, if you get a, 6-story office building, it's like a therapy job. It's, just playing the bolts and steel, man, let's just figure that out. But, it's, you get excited about the complicated ones and all that. But yeah, you learned a lot more. I learned a lot more from the failures and the disasters and the dumpster fires.
I was looking at a contract for a client the other day, and there's some quirky, crazy clause in there that it didn't make any sense at all. Like, it doesn't really do anything, but it does, like, I can't understand why this is crazy. The client said, well, why is that in there? I said, well, because something happened to this guy at some point along the way.
That's right.
He got lit up over something. I can't figure out what it was. And he's trying to bake this in there because of a war story.
That's right.
And we're like, oh, the client was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That's a very specific clause.
It's a very specific thing that doesn't make any sense. Anywho, the point being, like, you learn and you try to fix it moving forward. And whatever that problem was that guy had, he ain't never having it again.
That's right.
So
that's right. So it was a good experience. It was, and it was the Dublin branch at the time was a smaller branch, and so I got to do everything. I had to learn how to do purchasing. I had to learn how to do, document control, because literally they came in, and not saying they fired everybody, but they fired a lot, and moved a lot of our stuff up to Charlotte to the headquarters, and the only real people that were left were an estimator and an assistant estimator and me as a project manager, and that was pretty much it. And then the shop.
Yeah.
And so it was, there was a couple of people answering phones and stuff like that, but they took all the purchasing away for a limited amount of time and all that. And so I got to learn a lot really fast about different aspects of the business, and because I had to, and they had to expose it to me because
it's the only way you're going to get it going.
Well, yeah, it's the only way I was going to get it going, and they just didn't. They didn't know all the nuances of these jobs that were out in the middle of it,
right?
And so it was it was a really good experience for me. Looking back on it, it was good.
Yeah.
There's a couple good threads in there, like the God thread of serving at church and just doing what you're supposed to do, and him putting you at the right place at the right time. To uncover your purpose. Like, there's a lot of God threads in that I'm sure you've reflected on.
Oh yeah. Listen, it's God's all throughout this story. There's it's funny. It's just crazy. And then a year or so later, after that, 2 years later, I guess, in 2006, is when I got asked to go to Group Steel Erectors in Nashville to be president there. And so I was 28. And they came, I was a PM, in Dublin there. And so they came and and asked me to, be the president. And I was like, heck yeah, man. I mean, it's a great adventure. Let's just go. Let's go figure this out. And so,
is this an affiliate or SteelFab, or this would be leaving SteelFab?
It'll be leaving SteelFab.
Okay.
They were, they were a subcontractor.
Got it. Oh, the install piece.
Yeah, the install piece. They were subcontractor SteelFab, and we were.
Oh.
They were doing. I was managing about 4 or 5 jobs that they were on, and so I had a really good relationship with the owners, and the owners were just rock solid erectors. I mean, they knew exactly how to install it. They were out in the field every day and all that, and so what they lacked was the business side, the estimating side and all that stuff. They would literally look at a job and just say, well, I think it's going to take this long.
Oh yeah.
2 weeks.
And so, and the paperwork side, they lacked on that side, really. I mean, they knew exactly how to build a building and probably still know how to do it better than me today, but they just lacked on the business side of stuff. And so, it was a really good opportunity for me and Lane, and we had 1 child at the time. And so we went from Dudley, Georgia, up to outside Nashville. And so that was working with Group Steel, and that was cool. That was a good experience. I was only there for about 18 months, but during that 18 months, you're talking about God putting different things in. My oldest, which is 18 now, she had asthma, and she aspirated, and she was put on a ventilator for 14 days. And so the Kyle Kelly thing that was, he was just going through with all his kids. I mean, just brought like a lot of memories and stuff. Yeah. And so I was texting him every day through all that. But getting back to that, I mean, we were going to a doctor that was at Vanderbilt, and so I mean, it went from hey, you're going to probably lose your little girl to everything's good 14 days later. And so, but then, so we were probably 7 hours away from our family. And so we wanted we were thinking about trying to look for something, back closer to family at the time. And then SteelFab reached out to me about an Atlanta position to be a VP of operations there. And it would come with a raise and opportunity and all that. And so all that happened while we were up there. And one of the smartest things I did was when I went to Group, they didn't have any insurance. They didn't have, anything. It's a small company. And so I was like, we got to find at least a catastrophic policy for all the owners and then, the league guys. And so we had found a catastrophic policy, and it had been in place for like 3 months, and it took care of every medical bill.
Oh,
it was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. God,
it was crazy. Yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. It was just, but it was, and then we went to Atlanta, and we were in Atlanta for about 5 years, and added a couple of more kids. And,
I'm going to rewind you to the Group Steel Erectors team. Like whoever those owners were they like the founders of that company?
They were,
and it just worked their way up to bigger and bigger.
They were.
There's an interesting component to that story. I mean, I don't know that I can even pull the threads through it, but
yeah,
there's an interesting component part about how someone who's like has a technical proficiency, like those are good like starters of companies because they can go execute the work proficiently, but eventually they grow to a point. I'm telling your story back to you, but like you grow to a point where you've outgrown your technical proficiency. Like you can't run the business. You're a really good painter, but you can't run the painting operation. And it's at some point that technical proficiency or technical expertise outruns the business, and you have to. If you're one of those, I'm saying this out loud now because if you're one of those operators, like if you're the entrepreneur, I started this company, it can't grow without adding pieces like you into that puzzle. Say, man, I need back office support. I need someone who can manage this. I need all those pieces. You have to start buckling them on. Otherwise, typically they burn themselves up. But
it was interesting with them. So it was, there were 3 owners, and again, they just knew so much about how to hang iron and do the steel work. And so, I did have to sit them all down and was like, listen, guys, you got to trust me. I'm not, I'm here to make money. I'm here to build a job and create value. But you've got to let go if you want to know all the stuff. And, if you want understand that we can get some money over here in the account. You got to trust different things, and I got to trust you to do your job.
Right.
And I had to, explain to them they had to let go. And that's a hard thing. It would be for me if it was, my, $1 million I'd put out there and my house that was on the line, it would be really hard for me to let go as well. So I agree with you. I think that sometimes the small guys have to, you can't do everything. You don't have but so much amount of time, and you're not going to be good at everything.
Right.
You don't need to be.
No.
The path of travel with cash specifically, is a key ingredient that I see so many successful field leaders branch off and start their own thing, but they quickly call and like, hey, how do you bankroll this? I'm like, yeah, man, that's a toughie. Let's grab coffee.
It's a whole different skill set. It's a whole different skill set than doing the steel erection.
Yeah.
Completely different. And not that one's better than the other, but you get to a spot where you have to have both.
Yeah, you've got to have both. I feel like well, in every business, I feel like you got to have both, and and it's got to be relatable. We're in construction. People still like to be relatable and understand they don't want to talk to just a salesman. They want to talk to somebody that understands the install process. And
right,
so,
right.
I think you got to have a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they, to your point, they were at a point where they couldn't grow anymore because they just didn't have any more bandwidth. And then, I had to kind of pull them out of the field a little bit and say, well, you need to be running 4 or 5 jobs.
Right.
You're an owner. You've got one of them had, 3 guys that were, superintendent level that were working up under him. And I was like, well, no wonder your jobs are going great.
You got the aces in the hole.
You got all the aces in the hole over here. I said,
right.
But we could do 3 times the work if you just spread out the good guy,
mm-hmm.
and then let those guys create more good guy. It's not that complicated,
and yet somehow it is though. Like not to just. I know there's more story to tell, and not to just linger in this part of it, but somehow it is.
It is.
It's so complicated. It's super easy, and yet it's so complicated. And if the reason I say this because if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Yep.
And yet here we are on the precipice of, I think, a generation of companies that are going to strangle themselves out over the next 2 years because they haven't done what the 3 of us sitting here and nodding our heads saying that's easy.
Well, I think it's hard to find those guys. Number one,
all those aces.
Yeah, but also I think that their expectations are. People's expectations are and I'm very guilty of this too, especially at home and all that. But my expectations are too high sometimes,
mm-hmm.
and I think that expectations are too high, and I think that you don't let them feel valued, and they leave. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that you're talking about Dale earlier with the seasons. I tell all my guys that come in, I look at everybody in like a 5-year increment when they walk in the door. In the first seasons, I guess, the first 2 years, they're learning how to do their job. They're learning from scratch how to do their job. The 3rd year, they're getting pretty comfortable in it. And the 4th and 5th year, they're really making money out and being very proficient. But if you don't have a plan for him or her as they're growing in the 4th or 5th year, see ya.
Bye-bye.
They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to hire people that want to continue to move up, because if they don't continue to move up, then I can't grow.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want them to replace me. SteelFab's been great to me, but if I got hit by a bus, I don't want all the employees to be looking at who's going to run this place.
Right.
And so I always try to tell everybody, you got to be looking for your replacement or train your replacement. But also we got to continue to challenge these guys in 4 to 5 year increments and pay attention to that.
There's a reverse nugget of that too. Remember, this is my encyclopedia knowledge of the podcast. But remember when Fran McCann was here a long, long time ago, and he said, if you're the guy who's in your 4th year, you begin like asking for more of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll never forget. There's tons of moments on the podcast, but one of the things Fran said was that he wanted that guy that whenever he got the job, everybody thought, well, heck, I thought Kevin already was a VP or what. Like I didn't even realize he wasn't because he'd already been doing the job.
Yep.
And so that's a two-way street, incumbent upon the leader to provide a pathway, but incumbent upon the person trying to move into the new spot to start taking ground and taking ownership and asking for more responsibility. Don't just think it's going to be handed to you. Yep. You have to have some gumption to go get it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the leader of the pack sets the pace.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody has to want to rotate in and become a leader. And not everybody, but I mean, you got to have different people and aspects and all that. But I do want to, I mean, one of the things that we try to do is make sure that we provide the opportunity for the guys as they move up.
Yeah.
So that they can move up.
It's a tough one. Like strategically planning for your future and having everybody understand that, like, you got to be a part of this. Like, let's say you got several division leads sitting at the table and, hey, if we want to go here in 5 years, like, I'm going to make it more your call than mine because I need you. I'm good where we're at. But if you want to scale this thing up to create more career opportunity for you, like, you're going to have to step up and operate at the level I'm operating at. Like, are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Like, because our standard is a little bit different when you're in the head seat than a divisional lead seat or a project management seat where your burden's heavy. You're carrying, you're in charge of a division. You're in charge of P&L. You're in charge of the future of your team. Like it sits different day to day, and you got to be ready for that when you're strategically planning to scale to provide opportunity in that seat.
Yeah, and and these guys, I mean, the guys, girls, have to take the ownership of it. They got to take the ownership. They can't just walk in and say, well, I went to school for whatever and I've got 5 years experience. I deserve this. And no, you own what you own.
Yeah.
And, so I think that's a big thing, when it comes to that, and outgrowing your spot.
Right.
So
we got, as we have a tendency to do, we kind of got off chronology there. So you were headed to Savannah, is that right? No.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta.
So, spent 5 years in Atlanta, and that was good. It was really it was challenging, hard to get around Atlanta. Traffic. We were talking about traffic.
We were talking about it
It's
earlier.
like, good night, man. I live like 14 miles from my office, and it took me 45 minutes in the morning and an hour and 15 in the afternoons.
Oh,
just sitting
my
there.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was awful.
I didn't realize it was that. I knew it was bad. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Oh, it was awful.
You ever been to Atlanta?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to go visit. I just don't want to live there.
Home with Chick-fil-A, right?
It is.
Kathy Truitt. Isn't Kathy Truitt's from there for Chick-fil-A?
Mm-hmm.
First Chick-fil-A in Atlanta. Did you know that?
No.
Come on, man.
I think it's Truitt Kathy.
Truitt Kathy. Yeah.
Truitt Kathy.
Yeah, get it right, dummy.
Also where they film Family Feud because Steve Harvey's from there. You want any other random Atlanta facts?
The Marvel movies are filmed there.
I didn't know that. Yeah. See, look, it's the heartbeat of America.
Literally 3 minutes ago, Stewart's like, all right, let's get back chronologically here. And then just immediately pulls the rug from under us.
So you're headed to Savannah. No. Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A. Like, just a disaster. Sorry.
We got it. We're getting there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be quiet and eat my sandwich now. No, that's you eating a sandwich.
That's right. Just snacking.
Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, you're great.
Traffic in Atlanta's terrible.
You're great. Yeah. No, Atlanta was good. I continued at SteelFab and so worked there and was there in Atlanta for about 5.5 years. And during that time, had another challenging job, the Atlanta Botanical Gardens job. We were building the job and had a problem with the shoring, and the shoring collapsed. And the whole job hit the ground. It was 200 linear foot bridge or something. I mean, the whole job hit the ground. So we had to rebuild it, and sit through litigation, and it was just another great learning opportunity. And it was, I learned a lot. I mean, it was great. We rebuilt the job and it was, you see a lot of the ethics behind SteelFab at that point. I remember Ron Sherrill, that the CEO at the time, walked in and we're still trying to figure out, whose fault it was. I mean, it was just, everybody's in a room. Everybody's just throwing their chips on the table kind of thing. I mean, it was a terrible disaster. And, Ron, was like, listen, you guys want a bridge and we get that. We got to figure out where to point the finger at. But we got to get this material ordered again. Or you got to, we understand that we got to build this thing again. We still got to get you a bridge. And so like we started fabricating, immediately ordering all the material. And he was like, the owner had nothing to do with this. We don't know whose fault it is. Don't know if it's our fault, somebody else's fault, but we still got to get this owner a bridge. And so it was pretty cool to see, him willing to risk all the money of redoing it again,
When you have I got a lot of questions. You have a situation where, well, let me back up. One of the lawyery things I say is if everybody did what I said to do, nobody would ever do anything. And you have one of those situations where I don't think maybe the lawyer was in the room, but the business owner has to call a shot. Like, I hear you. We probably are about to take off, 2 commas or whatever, worth of risk.
Yep.
But it's the right thing to do. So shut up. We're fixing it, or whatever the case can be. And so there's this intersection of like what the right thing to do is, and what the ethical thing to do is, and what the best thing for the job is, and you have to manage all of it together. So that point also, when you say like I learned a lot through that, I want to hear what you learned through that, because not oftentimes do people get through a catastrophic collapse and a definitely prolonged lawsuit and have the chance to say, what'd you learn through that?
Yeah. I mean, probably one of the biggest things was, just ask a lot of questions. I mean, make sure, ask more. Don't sit back and assume that anybody knows anything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume anything. And just ask a lot of questions. I mean, it was a very simple misunderstanding is what ended up causing the deal. But it was a very simple misunderstanding, but nobody asked a question. And it was that. And another thing with that is because we were trying to build it back so fast, this is where I really started branching out and working with other trade partners, because we were all in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew whose fault this thing was at the time. Everybody's, just sitting there, hat in hand, not even know what to do. But all of us trade partners had to work together to get it back as fast as possible. And that's where I understood more about the working with the trade partners is, what can I do? Because I don't really know what you need as a glass guy. I don't know, because I'm a steel guy. But if I can put those clips on in the shop, I know that it's faster.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know that unless I had the conversation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allowed those conversations to start. And it allowed a lot of design assist stuff that we're doing today that we weren't doing back in 08, and collaboration stuff that we're doing today with BIM and all that. It forced our hand into that.
Interesting. That is a good lesson learned. Now, so fast forward to new job that's, taking off in the next year or whatever. You're in that process. Are you guys raising your hand saying, I need to ask a few questions, pushing that collaborative idea or collaborative approach upstream? Or is it sort of like taking on is the industry taking that on such that it's being forced down to or toward you? Like what's the path of resistance there?
I'd like to think we're trying to push it upstream. Yeah. I mean, I want to know. I mean, we do want to know information so we can build stuff for our, detailing wise. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we are we're form work for the skin and the concrete. At the end of the day, and we just got to figure out how to drive that building in faster so that other trades get released.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask, the Prestons and Kevins and all that. I mean, I want to ask, hey, what can I do to help you? And ask that question, whether it's in the room with the GC or it's just, one-on-one. Because I mean, if I'm helping my fellow trade partner get on and off the job faster, then they're going to make money. I'm going to make money, and the GC is going to be happy.
Right.
Yeah. Then we can all go do it again.
And we all go do it again because, if we all collaborate and we work together, they're going to want you on the job. It's not all. I mean, if we have to rely on low number, and I'm not going to make enough money to survive.
Nope.
And so, they have to want us on that job. And how do I add value is what get out of their way.
Yeah. Yeah. So my like takeaway from that is you're assessing what your like adjacent trade partners are and saying, hey man, I'm coming ahead of you. What am I doing that's making it worse, or that your field is grumbling about? Or if it takes me 5 minutes to put the screw in that spot instead of this spot, no big deal to me, saves you 2 man hours every day, whatever, stuff like that. And now you guys are smarter because of the relationship betwixt the two of you.
Right.
Yeah,
we understood a little bit better. And that's where I encourage our guys to do. I mean, I don't get as involved in that as I used to be, but that's certainly what I try to encourage our guys to do.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Well, there's things that you can do once we know each other more, right? Like that Baker Prefab, you're bringing up Preston. The prefab division and us, we work like this together on projects, and some of which we pre-glaze in our shop and then drop it in their shop, and then we don't even touch the job site. And there are so many things that we solve that GCs doesn't even have to be a part of. It just gets solved. And the only reason we would flag it is for ego. Hey, we solved something. Just wanted to let you know. No, like we get it done. Like, hey, dude, I just wrote down.
You didn't know about? I fixed it. You didn't know about it.
Yeah, right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, kudos, back pat. Yeah. But I wrote down and circled SteelFab will fab windload and deadload clips for curtain wall in their shop. That's something that I'm going to investigate further.
Well, I mean, if we can do it, and I mean, we're already having to cut a piece of bent plate.
Yes.
If I can put a notch in that bent plate for you, I mean, it's not going to take that much more time.
No, when we can't pour an embed into the face of slab, and we like cringe when we see steel instead of concrete, because it's just not our typical jam to weld everything together. It slows us down, to your point. So yeah, we'll be talking off air about that, or with your team at some point. That's awesome.
Yeah, not our typical jam. Is that like a door or window joke?
No, but it could be.
It should have been.
Yeah.
These settlers don't know anything. Why are we always off topic, Kevin? Why do we need to get back to the chronology?
No, we're right on pace, man.
I'm kidding.
So he's going to get through that, and then I think old Texas might be calling here soon.
Yeah. So then, fast forward on a couple of years, and then,
and you finally made it home.
No, Georgia's still home.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But no, it was funny. So my boss, Glenn Sherrill in Charlotte, he calls and said, hey, let's grab dinner. We'll talk about what your next steps at SteelFab are. And so I knew he was coming in town, and so my wife was grading papers at night, and she was a history teacher and geography teacher, and so she literally had a map of the U.S. in her hand, and she was like, I don't care where he sends us, but as long as it's in this circle right here is where I'll go. And that circle stopped at Alabama, went up to Kentucky, and kind of towards Virginia and Georgia and Carolinas. Texas wasn't in that circle, and so I get to dinner that night.
Old SEC schools.
Oh yeah, all SEC schools. Yeah. It was just all old school SEC.
Yeah.
And so I leave dinner that night, and I'm literally trying to pray through the conversation of how I tell my wife that it's outside that circle, and say, okay, well we can negotiate this circle, can't we? It was
remember that circle you drew? What if you used a bigger marker?
The sheet went like this right before you did it.
Yeah,
it just shifted to the left.
Yeah, it was awesome, and she was. It was like in June of 2011. I was building in Killeen. I was building Seton Medical Center already in Killeen, and we had a topping out party in like 2 weeks. And so I was like, well, hey, just go with me to the topping out party. We'll ride around, see what you think, and because at first we were just going to start a sales office in Texas. And we came out here, and we literally just rode through Midlothian and Mansfield and Fort Worth, and because there's a steel mill in Midlothian, Gerdau steel mill. So it made sense if you ever want to build a plant to get it close to the mill.
Yeah.
And so I was going to put a sales office in Fort Worth, and that was kind of our plan. And we were going to move the following May, I guess, after the school year, after she got finished teaching. And I was going to start coming in January with them. Then they called me the day after Thanksgiving. The family that owns SteelFab called me the day after Thanksgiving. They've been talking to somebody, a guy over here, and said, "Hey, we're thinking about just buying a fabricator in McKinney, Texas." I was like, "Okay, where's McKinney?"
Right next to Midlothian.
Well,
on a map.
Well, in their mind,
Yeah.
I mean, it's Texas. I mean, it doesn't matter. He said, "Well, it's in DFW Metroplex." I mean, and I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know that Lane cares. I mean, it's still 1,000 miles away from home. I don't know that it matters." So anyway, they bought it, and I started coming out here in 2012, and I was out here every other week for a week, and then the wife and the family moved. Lane and the kids moved in June in 2012.
What changed her mind though? Like, what's the thing?
Yeah, we missed the conversation.
Well, she was still adamant. She only gave me, she was like, "Man, I'll give you 2 years."
Okay.
And,
you had a leash on the
man.
circle moving.
She's like, "Listen, man, if we can't make this thing work in 2 to 3 years, I'm going back home."
And what does make work qualify? Like, we find a home church, we find a community, we find a great home. Like, there was
we kind of fit in. We fit in, and we didn't really fit in Atlanta. I mean, it was we're from Georgia, but Atlanta was hard. It's hard to meet people, and we had like one set of friends that we were really close to, and that was it. After 5 years, we had another family, but I mean, family was like 2 hours away.
Yeah,
and so it was just hard. We had a church, we just didn't really like nestle into the church, and so we moved here. We had a plan, and we moved here, and y'all gonna get a kick out of this, but we sat in the parking lot at Cottonwood Creek, and was like, "Hey, okay, that couple looks close to our age, and they got kids that's close to our age. Let's get out and let's follow them in."
Oh yeah.
And so we stalked
Nothing
them
creepy
in.
about that, David.
Nothing creepy about that.
It's perfectly normal. That's how we found a church home too. Oh my gosh.
So we followed them into their life group and dropped kids off and all that stuff. And actually, is one of the same couples that we're doing the church plant with now. So it's crazy. It's how God works. But it's crazy.
That's a great. I mean, joking now, that's a great story. Like, we're going to find our people. Let's watch for them.
Well, I didn't know another way to meet people. I mean, we struggled so bad in Atlanta meeting people, and so we were like, "Hey, let's just try this." And so,
did you eventually have a conversation with them? Let this cat out of the bag?
Oh yeah, they know exactly. Yeah,
but it wasn't initially.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's not a weirdo.
Did you see?
Yeah, it's like he smelled a skunk. Like,
no.
You eventually had to be like, "Hey, that was a plant.
That was a plant.
Yeah.
That was a plant."
Well, I mean, in your defense, it's like it's easy to know everybody in a small town.
Yeah.
But you something about moving to a big town is like everybody's going their separate directions, and I don't know any of these people, and there's millions of us passing, but none of us are stopping to say hello.
Yep.
Whereas in a small town, you show up at the grocery store, like, "That guy, I've never seen that guy before. Hey, man, you guys new to town?" And it's not weird. You're like, "Yeah, we moved in. Oh, well, you should guys come over. We're having pork chops this weekend." Like, you're instantly plugged in because you're new. Here, nobody knows who you are. You're just lost. And even at our church, we try to make the big church small and put you in folks. But even still, you're like, "Well, we were in a group with these folks, and they moved to McKinney, and it took 19 hours to get together, and we never did it anymore." It's just hard. It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. It's real hard, and it's hard as you grow.
Yeah, yeah. Because you're all running in a zillion different directions.
Yeah, so it was. She said she would give it a shot, and so we're still here. So,
how old were your kiddos when y'all made that move?
So my oldest was 6.
Okay.
And so she did first grade, kindergarten in Georgia, and first grade here.
Gotcha.
And then in second grade she went to Melissa, and that's where she's about to graduate.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's not a hard move. I was just trying to age of kids and ripping them out of school. That's a hard thing, but it sounds like.
No, we were pretty conscious about that. I was like, "Hey, all right, we can go now."
Mm-hmm.
If we wait another 5 years, then we probably can't go.
Right.
And so it was good. And our third, our son was 1 when we moved.
Gotcha.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not uprooting too much at that point.
No. It was. My parents weren't real happy, because I mean they still live in the same house for the last 50 years. So it's, they weren't real happy, but but I mean, they've come accustomed that I'm in Texas now. So
Where are
it's only
your
12 years.
sisters?
They're there. They're in my hometown, pretty much.
Yeah. Do they have kids?
They do.
Okay, so they have some sort of grandchildren
They
within
do.
arm's reach.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. It's but we're really real close to everybody. We it's always a big get together whenever we get together. I mean, it's like 20 of us now.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
it's awesome. So
That's what 5% of Dudley.
I know. That's pretty close.
That's 3 times this episode I've like had to lean out like just a hearty belly chuckle. That being 5% of Dudley is awesome.
Well, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it last week or week before? That's probably a couple weeks ago with Damien. Just had that like feels like home. And it's not exactly because you live in a micro town, but I do have like every time we talk about that, those like small town stories, I'm like, man, wish we lived in a small town. You know, there's something special about it.
For sure.
Yeah, I think there's just a different set of values that you get.
Yeah.
You know, and you try to make just the big town a small town. Everybody's striving to make the big town a small town, I feel like.
Yeah, but and maybe this is just me speaking for me, at me, but there's so many Joneses here to keep up with. And you're like, man, nobody in Dudley is like, oh, they have a really nice truck. I want a really nice truck. You know, it's just like, it doesn't have that same feel of hustle or whatever. I don't know what the right word is, but more laid back, man. I don't know. Anyhow.
It is more laid back. You and I agree with you. You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses as much.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's okay with what they have. They're pretty satisfied. And and that's good and bad.
Right.
That's
well, that's well said.
That's good and bad. I mean, you start to not dream as big.
You don't know how you can't.
You can't dream as big.
Yeah.
And you think the world just stops at the end of the road.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's good and bad.
Right.
I mean, what you don't know, sometimes ignorance is really good.
Totally.
Well, and it took me 30-ish years to be like, man, living in a small town sounds awesome, because I spent the last 30 of them not wanting to be there because there was other things to do, and I've done a few of them now, and I'm like, well, I just like to drink coffee at the diner. That's what I like to do.
I certainly enjoy it when I get to go back and see my friends and meet them at the Waffle House, in town and catch up. It's I love every bit of it.
Yeah.
That's what I think mentors for everybody that have years on you, that can see something because they've seen more life than you, or their horizons are expanded, they're in a bigger role, whatever whether that's faith, family, work, whatever bucket it is, having maybe a mentor for each that just can see something in you that you wouldn't even know to see. You don't even know how to envision it. Mm-hmm. And I get that. I mean, I'm always reminded through the Big Brother, Big Sister program, when you go through orientation, they just try to frame your perspective in life. Yeah. And they say, hey, in South Dallas, you might get a kiddo that lives on a little 2-block by 2-block grid, and that's the only thing he's seen his entire life, and he's never seen the Dallas skyline. You need to keep that in mind. And you're like, man, like that's right there. All you got to do is go a few blocks to see the skyline. Never seen it in their life. And they're like, that's going to be a common story for you. How can you dream beyond that if you don't even know these skylines? How do you, that's very difficult to do. And outside looking in, you would think, well, you just need to, see that there's a path. Well, how? Unless somebody's paving that for you or painting that picture, it's really difficult to.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. I think for me, I wanted to get out, and I was.
I don't know what's out there.
I was like, man, I don't know what's out there. Me and my dad at the time, again, it's amazing how much smarter my dad got from the time I was 18 to the time I was 25, and so it's just amazing.
Kudos to him for growing.
Yeah, I know. It's really good for him for growing for that 7 years.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's but my one of the questions you asked was about my mentors, and one of my mentors is my cousin Tracy. I actually named my son after him. But he was 17 years older than me, and he worked in Atlanta and worked at Panasonic. Then he worked at, Club Car, and then he worked at Ingersoll Rand. And I mean, it's just, you could just see the path. He was moving up everywhere he went. And him and I, he was like a big brother. We talked, we still talk almost every week. And we just talk about anything. I mean, anything from God to kids to wife to whatever else. But, just having an older perspective that's not your parents.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, again, my parents now are probably the smartest people I know, but at the time, I wasn't going to listen to anything that they had to say.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. And so, so it was, he was, Tracy was really big on that, but he saw that. It was like, hey, dream big. Don't be afraid. I mean, if you can, I've always felt like if you can deal with the worst situation, don't be afraid to take the chance.
There you go.
That's smart right there. I never
Yeah.
heard it said like that, but that's smart.
Yeah, I mean, if the worst thing he's got to do is move home, I can deal with that.
Right.
If I got to move back to Dudley, I can deal with that.
Right.
But so what's
So what?
What's the risk?
So what's the risk?
What's the risk?
Huh.
Yeah, and the way if you have a small ceiling over your life, you don't have to go from small ceiling to no ceiling. Like listen to your journey; it's incremental.
Yeah.
You just take a next step, and then next step, and then you might see that ceiling raise a little bit. Oh, there's more possibility in the world outside of Dudley, and then all of a sudden, what was it, Nashville, and now and then Atlanta, and now DFW. You weren't thinking that when you were a teenager that you were going to
No.
bounce around all those spots. It's incremental. It's taking the next step, the next opportunity, opening the next door, shutting that door. It just doesn't happen like that for most of us. It's incremental.
Yeah, and I think you got to be willing to take the step.
100%.
I mean, it's that's one thing. I mean, like with Lane, when she drew the circle on the map, and that was it. I remember us talking about it and praying about it, and it was like, what is okay? Let's say it doesn't work, and that means we got to move back to the farm. And she had inherited a part of a farm, a family farm, and I was like, we got to move back, and I got to remodel a house, and the kids got to be here and run around on the farm. I was like, that really doesn't sound that terrible.
Mm-mm.
We may not have any money, but we can make money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would suck for a little while, but it would, we can make money. So it was cool.
I like the story. And so we're already now 12 years in to this operation.
Yep.
And, the identity's in the name, SteelFab, right?
Yep.
You're stealing, fabricating steel for erection. And I said that backwards in the field. I remember you just brought up values, and I remember, but also don't remember. I wrote down the golden rule. You had a golden rule as one of your values on the website. What is it?
Yeah. I mean, just the golden rule. I mean, do unto others, you would have them do unto you. It is preached at SteelFab. I mean, it is, you don't want to, they always say you never want to lose money and lose a customer. I mean, it's always you want to take care of all your customers and put them first. And you have internal and external, customers, of course. And but you always want to do that. And then they're really big on ethics and hiring really well. And there's a book by John Maxwell. There's no such thing as business ethics. A little quick read. It's easy, but to sum it up, it's either you have ethics or you don't have ethics.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as business ethics. And so they preach that. I mean, it is, let's do the right thing. If it costs us money, we're going to do the right thing.
Yeah. On that, don't lose money and the customer sentence soak in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't go out in a blaze of glory and lose both because of stubbornness or ego.
Yep.
Fight for one, maybe, or the other.
Yep.
If you get both, awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we're all gunning for.
Yeah.
And sometimes the bridge collapses.
Yeah, sometimes things happen.
Yeah,
and do the right thing when things happen. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that the Sherrill family and how they've created their value in their company. And that's how every division is works the same way.
The idea of, I'll be a little cheeky, but do the right thing. Like, it sounds, that's easy. It's easy to say. It's easy to put on the wall. It's easy to understand. It's not always easy to do because what the right thing isn't always clear. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of gray, and assessing and navigating and thinking and conversing and praying and talk. All those things help you navigate it, but doing the right thing is not the easy thing. That's hard sometimes.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is hard. It's a gut check sometimes, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to, draw a line in the sand and say, hey, I'm not going to do that because of principle. I'm not, or whatever that is, and it's, but sometimes you gotta take ownership of your stuff, and it stinks, and be vulnerable. That's probably the biggest thing is being vulnerable and being okay with being vulnerable. I'm going to make mistakes, and my kids are going to make mistakes, and that's probably another thing that I grew up a lot in the last 12 years is, I would try to hold all my kids to the same standard I would hold myself to, or at work. I'd bring my management style at home, and it's probably not the best. And and so and I've had to grow as that, but I've also had to go to my kids and just listen. I'm learning to be a dad. I asked for a manual when I left, and they didn't give me one. And
just the bill.
They gave me, but I had a manual. I just didn't really understand I had a manual, if that makes sense, and just understanding that, and spending more time doing the studying and implementing, what the Bible says of how to handle certain situations. So it's not always just black and white, but sometimes it is, and we just got to take time to read it.
Yes. The bringing your management style home thing, it's pretty hard though. Because I get the office, I say, hey, let's do this thing. And people do it because I said we should do the thing, right?
You said that, yeah.
Yeah. And at home, it doesn't work the same way. And that's a frustration from time to time. But those people at home don't work for me. They're with me even. Like that's my family. And anyway.
It's funny how the same words get like different reactions, because like when that was said, I was thinking I need to bring my management style home more often, because like I've said to myself numerous times in recent past, if my wife and kid work for me, they'd quit. I'm a pretty cool boss and motivate and cast vision, and then I get home and I'm a drill instructor. Like, what is this? My house could use more of my management style.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I think you meant it the other way, right?
Yeah,
I
know.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I've heard you say that before, but in the context of that little soundbite, that's interesting.
That's something that drives my kids crazy. I do this at work too, but once a year we all sit down and we write down our dreams, and I make all my kids and my wife write down their dreams and their goals once a year. And it's amazing how they change. Mm-hmm. Year over year and all that kind of stuff.
I like it.
It's cool, but it drives all my family crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like Dad. Oh, it's January 8th again. Here we go with the dream catcher again.
I'm gonna dream that you make me stop dreaming.
Yeah,
cut it out, Dad.
I'm gonna dream me stop.
Yeah, but it drives them crazy.
Year after year. I wish we'd stop doing this.
Yeah.
That's my
drop
one,
the bit, pops.
My one dream is to stop doing.
Yeah, and it's amazing that they have said that to me too. So.
Oh, really?
They're either gulping listening to this or laughing.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys know each other from the TEXO board, is that right?
Yeah. Hey, He runs the show next year.
Oh, you're in charge.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Texo's ready for that. No, this is. I'm not. I know that I'm not ready for it.
Oh, the lies. But you had the first part right.
But it's. No, I'm very honored. I've been very honored to be on the TEXO board and then on the executive committee, and it's been cool. I mean the management style that you brought and Stevens brought, and Jason and Clay, and it's I mean, it's just so cool to see all the different guys and girls and just how they, just again, the collaboration, how much, brain power's in that room.
A lot of horsepower in there, isn't it?
Man, it is crazy. I'm very humbled to be in there. It's cool.
I think everybody has that, like, because it's gelling so well. It's not always historically been like that. There's been a lot of ego in there,
Tension.
but the last few years, we're all cheerleaders of each other's and a certain level of admiration.
Yeah,
like because he'll bring up things in executive committee meetings. I'm like, how do you even see that? Like, I'm baffled. Like the financial prowess. Like, he sees a statement, just it comes to life for him a lot different than me. And it's like, man, I'm going to strive to be better in that way. And I think a lot of us are like that, rather than I need to come in there and puff my chest and show my worth. If there is a level of that in there, I don't see it currently.
Yeah, I don't either.
when did you? Well, I'm going to say it anyway. I probably shouldn't. I had the opportunity to.
I already know where you're going.
Where am I going?
Go ahead.
Sit on the board for a minute.
Yeah,
a few years ago. This is. I can't remember how long ago it was. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I was there would be people who, as things would come around, they'd be like, "Oh, I have a question," or something that was like, "You don't have a question. You just wanted to raise your hand and say something out loud in a room full of your peers, so that people thought more of you around all that." Did you think that's where I was going?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had the opportunity to be in the board meetings, but everybody who's in there right now says exactly what y'all are saying. That's gone.
It's gone.
This is not the same.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see it evolve.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got on the board, I kind of felt like that was it. I mean, I was certainly low man on the totem pole, and didn't really have a voice at all. I just kind of sat in the back and kept to myself. But now I feel like that everybody that walks in that door has the same voice.
See, that's excellent.
And I think that's a big deal.
Oh yeah,
it's a huge deal to not waste those 30 people's time that are in there that are running the commercial construction industry. You know, like, make their time useful.
Yeah.
And when David says something, it's like, we're implementing that. That's a great idea.
Right.
That we need to do that immediately and run it down. And if we could do it, great. If not, great. But just as we've evolved in that, it could be taken immediately. Like, if somebody goes on an ego trip, like, it could go back to that in 1 to 2 years. EOS helps in a big way, structuring that so it doesn't go hard right turn. But there's the current and future, there's an amazing lineup of leaders in there that care more about a purpose bigger than themselves. It's awesome.
And I think that, the servant leadership style that we're seeing, you see it through Melanie and all that. And he's got all his crackers over there.
Just remember a few weeks ago we were doing like you can't stop munching on snacks, and here you are just munching on snacks.
It's okay. It's not nighttime.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, but interrupted something super smart because we're talking about Melanie being a great leader, and then you're chomping a snack and just.
No, it was, but no, I mean, I do think, it certainly starts at the top with the way that Melanie leads, and then, and then again, with Clay and Jason and yourself, and it's just amazing to see, nobody walks in there and says, "Hey, it's going to be this way, and this is the way it's going to be." It's nothing even close to that.
Yeah.
It's, hey, how do we make this better? Every time you walk in the room is how do you make it better?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think it's cool. So it's certainly been a big part of me getting involved in the DFW market.
Yeah. Kev, where we go?
Hobbies.
I saw you flip over there.
We're in the final turn here.
Final turn. What do you do for fun, man?
Well, I like to hunt and fish and play golf.
Yes, I got it right. And speaking of large crowds, right?
Oh yeah. Let me tell you, I hate speaking.
Really?
No
big deal. Nobody listens to this podcast anyway.
Yeah. No, I do. I hate it. Last year, I had my cousin's husband passed away last year, and I was really close to him. And she called me and asked me if I would do the services, all of it. And I had to say yes. What am I supposed to do? He was a guy that I honored, and And man, I was sweating bullets, because I was like, what am I going to say, all this stuff. And so, but it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. I was very honored, number one, to do it, but you just had to get thrown out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And I couldn't tell her no. I mean, what am I supposed to say? I can't tell her no, and so it was really good. It was really good for me. I still don't like speaking in front of crowds, but it made me prepare. It forced me to get back and do a lot of real deep studying, in the word and because you want to do it right. And it means a lot to you, but yeah, I hate speaking in front of people, but
you're better at it than you think, though.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because this is quasi that.
Yeah.
It's just something about the headphone and the mic that makes it feel like you're in front of a crowd. Because in some ways you are, it's just, dude, you crush this.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
This might be a dead end, but what type of hunting do you do?
Anything. I love to bird hunt. I like quail hunting. But anything. I like deer hunting too. I really like to hunt with my kids. All of them. My 3 oldest have killed a deer or something. I love teaching them how to hunt and all that. So I like wing shooting probably the most. Quail hunting is probably because you can walk and talk.
Yeah.
So
we give you an open mic to give your wife and them kiddos a shout out. What are they up to?
Man, I'm super proud of my wife. She's she kind of put her whole career on hold for my career and so man, I want to say about 8 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, she decided she was going to go back to school and get her LPC license, to be a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has her own practice, and she's just killing it. She's doing a great job, and so that's super proud of her. And I like the way that she's always said she wanted to do this, and I also like that my kids are getting to see that you don't have to stop. Just because you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever at the time, don't stop thinking that you want to do this. Let's just and it was cool for what they saw the sacrifice. She had to sacrifice, go to night school,
right?
All that kind of stuff, and it was really, really cool. She's obviously the kind of the backbone, the rock of our house. So it's she's the boss, So, and then my kids, my oldest Ann, senior, she's about to go to University of Kentucky, and super proud of her for that. And then my 16-year-old, she's still trying to decide what she wants to do. She thinks she wants to go into the ministry, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and so she's trying to figure out what that looks like, what degree that looks like, and what that does. And my 13-year-old is all about baseball and hunting and fishing and being a little boy.
Country music.
Yes, he loves country music. And
is he into this new country music thing where it sounds like hip hop?
He's in a little bit of both.
Okay.
But yeah, he likes all music. It doesn't matter. He just likes it, but he loves country music, and it's crazy. And then my 8-year-old, Josie, she kind of runs the roost. She bounces off the walls. She's a ball.
She like play up, you know what I mean? Like she act like a 16-year-old or something.
She does. She knows how to work a room.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's dangerous.
Yeah, she knows how to work around. I'll tell a funny story on this. My business partner, Josh Dillinger, was over at the house eating, and she came to me and was like, "Hey, I want an oatmeal cream pie." And I was like, "No, you can't. We're about to eat. I'm cooking. I'm outside grilling." And anyway, I walk back inside from the grill, and Josh is eating oatmeal cream pie, and she's eating oatmeal cream pie.
Got him.
And I said, what happened here? And Josh just looked at me just like red face. He's like, man, she came to me and she asked me if I wanted an oatmeal cream pie. And so she brought me an oatmeal cream pie, and then I shared my oatmeal cream pie with her.
Well played. Yeah. Man, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah,
and he looked at you and said, and you ain't my boss.
That's right.
So I wanted one.
I'll eat oatmeal cream pie if I want.
Yeah. If I'm going to eat, I'll eat dessert before dinner every single day of my life. Do what I want.
Yeah. It was awesome.
That is excellent.
future leader for sure.
Oh man. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're doing great. I'm super proud of them and everything they do, and it's been cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
We've gotten into this rut recently, not recently, quite some time actually, but ending on what we would call the one big thing or big takeaway, big parting shot. What's the big parting, one big takeaway shot from David?
You know, I'd go back to my small town and just don't be afraid to dream bigger than what you're seeing. And get out of your comfort zone. I mean, it's the only time you really grow. And it's get out of your comfort zone, grow a little bit, and push yourself to do that. And I need to do that on some certain things, but just don't be afraid. If you're not if you can live with the worst, just go try it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Love it, man. Dude, thanks for hanging out with us.
Nelson's ball. Thank you, guys.